Thank you guys, and a lot of you guys have been here for all of them, and we're going to continue to make this bigger and better with each passing year. But I appreciate you guys coming out, and we're going to get this program started. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program, but tomorrow I'll go into more detail. Basically, Black Americans for a Better Future is a 527 super PAC, and we're set up to get more blacks involved in the Republican Party. Our focus is specifically on the black entrepreneur. So we don't get into issues like abortion, immigration, and these trade deals. What we want is to take these black entrepreneurs who are already successful and make them more successful, and those who are dreaming of being an entrepreneur, we want to help them get on that path, because all of us had to get started somewhere. And the honorees we have tonight are just phenomenal, phenomenal. And the reason I created this award was, if you look at, for example, the civil rights movement, back in 2015, 14, 13, I think it was, the Lyndon Baines Johnson's Presidential Library had a 50th anniversary commemorating the March on Washington or something like that at the Presidential Library in Austin, Texas. To my amazement, they had Andrew Young and John Lewis, Jesse Jackson, the usual cast of characters. But what I found amazing was, and I wrote a column about this very issue, where were the black Republicans? Like Bill Coleman, former Secretary of Transportation, the first black to be appointed to a cabinet level position in the history of the U.S. He was appointed to that position in 1976 by President Gerald Ford. But more importantly to me, he was law partners with Thurgood Marshall. And he also argued with Thurgood Marshall Brown versus Board of Education before the Supreme Court. Now, he's still living. Why wasn't he on that panel? You had someone like Bob Brown, and your friend knows him, one of the highest ranking blacks in the Nixon administration. Martin Luther King used to stay at his house coming from Atlanta through North Carolina on his way up to D.C. Where was he? So there are tons. You had Judge Sarah Harper in Ohio, who was on the state Supreme Court there in Ohio, lifetime Republican, lifetime member of the NAACP. She's in her mid-80s. She was there with Martin Luther King. Where was she? And so we, when I say we, I'm talking about the Republican Party, we have allowed these liberals to erase black Republicans from the history books. And it's our fault, because we shouldn't have to depend on other people to tell our story. This is my response, to take these trailblazers that I know and have influenced me. Because I'm amazed. I'm from St. Louis, and I was brought into the Republican Party by Bush 41, Jim Baker, Bob Mosbacher, Nick Brady, all those guys. And one thing that they taught me early on, the value of loyalty. And if someone's a friend of yours, you go to hell and back for that friend. And so this is my way of bringing out and paying homage to people who came before me. Because I don't want to wait until they are too old and feeble to appreciate what's going on. Because when Secretary Coleman, he was 92 when we honored him at our first Trailblazer Award luncheon. And physically, he was just kind of right on the edge where he could appreciate, and he was like a kid in a candy store. And he was chasing all these young girls too. He wasn't that far gone, okay? And he's still with us today, but I have photos of that event and videotape. I mean, it was like he just lit up like a Christmas tree to know that the party that he has spent his whole life in wanted to acknowledge him. And so that's what we're going to do tonight, is to pay homage to some folks who have not only achieved a great deal of success by all objective standards, but the issue is, have they made a difference? Have they left their fingerprints? And each of these honorees tonight, in their own way, have left their fingerprints not only on the lives of blacks in the U.S., but in the Republican Party and within America. That's what a trailblazer is. It's not a matter of how much money you get. It's okay to have money, believe me. Believe me, believe me. I love money, believe me. If you elect me president, you're gonna have so much money, you're gonna say, please, please, no more money. And I'm gonna say, no, we're gonna make money great. No, that's the wrong subject. I digress. Believe me, but I know how to make money, believe me, believe me. I'm gonna make this country so great again, believe me. Did I tell you I was very wealthy? So, without any further ado, let me get serious now. So, the purpose of tonight are a couple of folks. Number one, we wanted to have some good food, good drinks, but also, before we honor our honorees tomorrow, I wanted to give a chance to bring them up here and just kind of talk about their journey. Some of the things they have gone through, some of the things that helped them get to where they are today. And we'll go into that further tomorrow. But also, the second thing is to give you, the audience, an opportunity to just hang out and meet some of these people. Because the past 4 events, there was never an opportunity for the honorees just to mingle with the audience. So, and then thirdly, we've had my good buddy Algebra and Bria Marie. They've agreed to perform and entertain us later on tonight. So Algebra is a multi-Grammy award winning R&B artist. Bria Marie will soon get some Grammy awards. So we're just going to have a good time and pay homage to these trailblazers. And so with that, I'm going to bring up the trailblazers. We're just going to have a conversation for about maybe 45 minutes. And if you all are really good boys and girls, we may even take a few questions. Believe me, I know how to ask questions. Believe me. You're going to get so tired of asking questions. You're going to say, please, no more questions. I'm going to say, yes, more questions. So who am I going to bring up first? Let's see. Let's see. Let me bring up, I tell you what, this person is one of our Southern belles here. And she's worked for several Republican governors over in Virginia. Again, I'll get into more detail tomorrow. I'm just going to kind of give you the short version. And she was the regional administrator for the SBA under the Bush administration. Allegra McCullough. Come on up here, Allegra. See, then the next person, how many of y'all keep up with basketball? How many of y'all have ever heard of Jimmy Jones? Okay, so those are the true diehard basketball players, because Jimmy Jones is one of the most prolific scorers in NBA, ABA history, and he don't want to talk about it. I'm going to do it anyway. His name is on the ballot for the Hall of Fame finally, so we don't know what the results are, but Jimmy is just one quality guy, a diehard Republican. I mean, I think this boy was born with Republican blood, and if you cut him now, you're going to see red, white, and blue come out of this guy. He's just diehard and knows everybody. And if you get a chance, while you're here over the next day or so, you all need to get a chance to just sit and really talk to Jimmy. Great guy, got stories to tell you galore. Let's take you behind the scenes of some of the major basketball players we've all watched on TV. He can take you behind the scenes and give you an insight like no other. Jimmy Jones. And last year he was honored and initiated into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. He went to Grambling University, so Jimmy has a lot of stories to tell. Welcome. Let's see, now we got my Southern belle, we got my Southern boy. Now we're going to bring up my Caribbean queen. Now this person she's just a delightful person. And I sent her an email the other night, and it was something minor, something grammatical error. I gotta make sure you do this right. She's good at catching mistakes, and sometimes I wonder if it was a mistake for me to ever get to know her, but I guess I'm stuck with her now. But she's the former Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Florida, from Trinidad, originally a mom, and she's never made me any doubles. And if you know anything about Trinity culture, I love my doubles. She refused to make any for me, claiming that's an Indian dish, which it is, but that doesn't stop her from making some doubles for me, but I digress. So, and she's also a 20-year Navy vet. So we're going to bring up former Lieutenant Governor of Florida, Ms. Jennifer Carroll, my Caribbean friend. Oh, I know. I got two more. Let's see. Who do I want to go first? Believe me, I know how to make a decision. Trust me. Believe me. Believe me.
You love your people.
Yeah, I love my people. Believe me. Sometimes I call mom, I say, Melania, did you see these people? She said, no, what people? I said, your people. She said, who are my people? I don't know. Believe me, I know what I don't know. And I'm going to stop while I'm behind. Believe me, I know. I think this next person, I'll tell you, if there was ever a trailblazer, that I get angry when I think about this person because you want to talk about someone who's actually taken arrows for the party and who's paid their dues. And the party, I mean, we Republicans have got to do a better job of highlighting and paying homage to our own people. The liberal media is not going to do it. And stupid of us to even expect them to do it. For example, who was it? One of the presidential candidates, forget who it was. God, I'm having a senior moment. Oh, I know it, John Kasich, governor of Ohio, ran for president. And he meant no harm by this. During the debate a couple days ago, he was talking about how the reporter asked him this question about the kid who was shot in Ohio by the police in cold-blooded murder, and everyone got upset. He said, yeah, I set up a bipartisan panel and commission to deal with it. I got leaders from all over Ohio, and I even got Nina Turner, who's a very, very liberal black state senator. I mean, she makes Bernie Sanders look like a conservative. That's how liberal she is. And I said to myself, this is the problem with the Republican Party. He highlighted a black liberal female. Why didn't he mention a black Republican? Oh, y'all don't get me. I mean, but in marketing, these are the simple things that makes a difference. Optics matter, and the Republican Party is horrible on optics, and this is one of the things we're going to do at Black America for a Better Future, is to push people like these panelists to have them on radio, TV, newspaper, talking about what they know to be the truth, because half the stuff you hear from black liberals are not even based in fact. But if you don't have anyone pushing back, guess what? A lie that's repeated enough becomes the truth. And so this guy has spent his whole life trying to make a difference in the black community and work with Jack Kemp and HUD, and he's got a great ally and a Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, and we're going to talk more about this tomorrow. But let me bring up Honoree Bob Woodson. Okay, he's trying to prove he's still young. He got that little step in him, right? If he had tripped, I'm going to laugh at him. I'll tell you that. And this last one, I don't know what to say about this boy, but I guess I got to be nice because his beautiful wife is here. So I don't want her to look. You know how women are. You can say something wrong. They don't have to look. They don't have to do anything to you, but it's got the look that they put in their eye. Oh boy, I screwed up. I'm in deep. Only a mother can do that. Especially black women. They got this look. Because I remember as a kid back in '60s, I did something, my mother was on the phone. This is before Portland's phone. This is back in, what, 1600s, I think it was. And she threw this shoe upside, I tried to throw it upside my head. I ducked, and I thought she could know she can't aim. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, pow! I don't know where she came from. But mother's got that way of stealthily approaching you. If the look don't get your attention, that smack upside the head to get your attention. Matter of fact, I still feel it right now. Maybe I have that NFL concussion syndrome going on. But I've known Fred McClure forever, and he was President Bush's 41, his head of political affairs in the White House, and now he runs the Presidential Library. And if you haven't been to College Station, to the Presidential Library, which I haven't, and we're going to work on that, but you all need to go there and check out what the library. I went to 43's library last year, and it's phenomenal, phenomenal. It's all interactive and high tech and all that stuff. But Fred is one of the what I call a quiet storm. Have you ever seen a storm that just pops up out of nowhere, caused all this devastation, and you never know where it came from? This is Fred. You get on the right. He's a lawyer by training and a top lawyer, and I'm still working on him becoming a Christian, so we got work to do being a lawyer. But I'll bring up Fred McClure. These guys still think they're young. Okay, so I'm just going to sit down there and step aside, and I'm just going to ask them a few questions, and let's get a conversation going. And if you have some questions, be formulating your questions, not speeches. Believe me, I'm the only one giving a speech. Trust me. Believe me, I know how to give a speech. No, guess not. So I'm going to sit down here and just think about some of the questions you may want to ask them. And we're going to make this very brief, maybe 30 minutes, and then we'll start the second part of the program. Let's see, let's start with Jennifer, since she's in the middle there. You were doing so well. You were doing so well.
Well, are we going to have a mic so they can hear?
Oh, yeah, where's my phone? I forgot about that.
That's why I got your back right now.
She's good. She's good. Believe me, she's very good, very good. We're going to make America so great, believe me, trust me. Jennifer, tell us how you became actively involved in the Republican Party. I've never heard that story myself.
Interestingly enough, I'm going to talk a little bit about my background. I'm an immigrant from Trinidad, West Indies. My parents migrated to this country, and I came along with them. I was an adopted child with my parents. Came to this country at the age of 8. Still have my accent. Somebody asked me that earlier today. Yes, it's still there. But that's, when I came to this country, it was an assimilation process. And we came for the opportunities. And talk about making America great again. It is great. It is great. It creates a lot of opportunities for many people who want to achieve. But along the way, we've had some obstacles. When I joined the Navy back in 1979, it was a way to get away from home because my parents were so strict. I couldn't even breathe without asking for permission. So my father blamed my mother for giving me the permission to go. However, when I came in as an E1, the lowest rank you can be in the military, I was a jet mechanic when I was enlisted, rose through the ranks to become an aviation maintenance officer, retired as a lieutenant commander after 20 years in the service. Thank you. We spent 27 years in the Air Force. We were a mixed marriage. So he was in the Air Force and I was in the Navy. But while I was serving in the Navy, in my last tour of duty at NAS Jacksonville, Naval Air Station Jacksonville, I was an admiral's aide. And my admiral had 17 major commands throughout many states in which he was responsible for those bases. As his aide, I was not a traditional aide. My admiral believed in professional development and certainly valued my input to being his teammate. So he gave me a number of responsibilities, and one was being a liaison to our delegation in the Congress, as well as our state leaders and our local leaders. So I was a conduit to my admiral for our issues at the base that we had to address, whether it was ocean issues, whether it was encroachment issues, and you name it. A base is a city within a city. So when I was doing that, one of our members of Congress was a Democrat, female, black individual. Our major base in the Jacksonville area was in her congressional district. And she typically ignored our request to speak on our behalf before the Congress for the issues that we were dealing with in the Jacksonville area. I went to a congressional member that was bordering our district. And that congressional member never served, but she embraced the military and truly wanted to help. So I would go to her for help, but as a courtesy, I went to the congressional member which the base belonged to, and I asked, would you mind if I went to this other congressional member for her to take up the charge on our issues and be our voice in the Congress? And that member told me, sure, I don't mind. And I said, son of a gun. How could you abdicate your duty and responsibility that the people have elected you to, and you're getting paid to do a job, and you don't mind someone else doing it for you? And I made the decision to run for Congress, and that was in the 1999-2000 election. And if you read my book, I'm a best-selling author, When You Get There, my autobiography, I have a story in there as to how George Bush, the second one, was able to get elected through me being on the ballot during that time. It's really interesting. So when I stepped out to run, my parents, when they received their naturalization, they registered as Republicans. As many of our young people do, you follow the line of your parents, which I did, but I didn't know why I was registering as a Republican at the time I did. However, when I ran for that congressional seat, someone asked me, what are you running as? That's the question mark there. Well, what am I running as, a Republican or Democrat? And then that's when I really, because in the military, we weren't able to, at that time, be engaged in political activities. We had to stay steadfast away from that. So that was when I had to do a soul searcher within myself as to, well, am I a liberal or conservative? I stood steadfast of being a conservative. However, I wasn't truly embraced by the party to run against a black member of the Congress where Bill Clinton was the president. Because the Republicans saw with this member of Congress, she would have access to Bill Clinton, and not knowing me, that they may not have that same level of access. So talk about being a black Republican, running as a Republican, would have made history in the area, which I did make history along the way, but they didn't embrace that because they saw the opportunity of power and money overshadowed in bringing about diversity into the party in itself, at least in my area. But nevertheless, I ran, got 42% of the votes, and that was pretty good coming out the box. So that's why, number one, I was a Republican. Number two, ran for Congress to begin with.
Question for you now. You worked for 2 or 3 presidents. I forget.
It's a whole.
No, that doesn't mean you started early. Tell us how you compare your experience working for these presidents, 10, 20, 30 years ago, versus the state of the Republican Party now, especially relative to the relationship the party has or does not have with the black community.
Well, I guess I was pretty lucky. I'm going to kind of go back like Jennifer did in terms of kind of how I got here. When I was a student at Texas A&M University, I got the opportunity to come up here one summer and work for the first Republican president for whom I worked, which was President Ford. At that time, the White House intern program was sort of like a junior version of what is now the White House Fellows program, which is not generally politically driven. We had a healthy mix of bipartisan folks working that summer at the White House or at other parts of government in the White House intern program. A few months later, I got back to A&M and was elected student body president, and it was kind of a big deal. And there was an AP Wire story. And the AP Wire story, first of all, the headline was "Black Elected Student Body President at A&M," which was really weird. But more importantly, in the article, it referred to Fred McClure, comma, a Republican, comma, blah, 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 blah. That's how I became a Republican. Oh, really? You can blame it on each other. That was okay, I guess I can be one.